During a quiet dinner with my daughter and her husband, where we were celebrating my retirement after 30 years of nursing, I received a text message from an unknown number. Don't react. Just leave the house now. I decided to trust this stranger's warning and discovered something terrible that made my blood run cold. 20 minutes later, police were breaking down their front door. You won't believe what my own daughter had planned. I'll tell you everything. First, let me thank you for watching Granny's Voice. Please subscribe and tell us where you're watching from in the comments. We might give you a shout out in our next video. Today's special shout out goes to Restina Harris, from Birmingham, Alabama. Thank you for being part of our family. Now, let me tell you everything. The warm steam from Sarah's homemade apple pie filled her cozy kitchen as I helped clear the dinner plates. Same routine we'd started since my husband passed. Sunday dinners at my daughter's house. Her new home in the suburbs felt too big, too perfect, like something from a magazine. I dried each dish carefully, the way my mother taught me 60 years ago. Sarah hummed while she worked, the same tune she'd sung as a little girl. The refrigerator was covered with photos. Sarah's wedding, her graduation from law school, family vacations before everything changed. My eyes stopped on one picture. Sarah and her husband Marcus at their wedding last year. They looked so happy then. Before the arguments about money. Before she stopped calling as often. Before tonight's dinner felt more like an interview than a family meal. The doorbell rang suddenly, cutting through my thoughts like a sharp knife. Sarah rushed to answer it, her voice cheerful as she greeted someone at the door. Mom, this is Dr. Peterson. He's here to discuss some exciting news about your future. A tall man in an expensive suit walked in, carrying a leather briefcase that looked very important. Mrs. Johnson, Dr. Peterson smiled, but his eyes looked cold. Your daughter tells me you've been having some memory problems lately. I stared at Sarah in confusion. Memory problems? What are you talking about? Sarah's face looked worried, like when she was little and broke something valuable. Mom, you've been forgetting things. Last week you called me 3 times asking the same question. That wasn't true. I had perfect memory. I'd been a nurse for 30 years. You can't forget medicine doses or patient names. But Dr. Peterson was already opening his briefcase. These things happen as we age, Dr. Peterson said gently, pulling out official-looking papers. But there are wonderful care facilities that can help. Marcus appeared from the kitchen, moving quietly like he'd been listening. Mom, we've found the perfect place. Sunset Manor. They have amazing programs for people with your condition. My heart started beating fast. What condition? I felt perfectly fine, sharp as ever. Sarah took my hand, her fingers cold and trembling. We just want what's best for you, Mom. The doctors say early intervention is key. I looked around the living room where we'd shared so many happy memories. Sarah's law degree hung on the wall, the one I'd helped pay for with my nursing salary. Marcus's expensive watch caught the light as he signed something Dr. Peterson handed him. What kind of papers are those? I asked, trying to read them upside down. Just routine medical evaluations, Dr. Peterson said quickly, sliding them away from my view. Nothing to worry about. But something felt wrong. Very wrong. Why was Marcus signing papers about my health? Why hadn't anyone asked me what I wanted? Sarah squeezed my hand tighter. Mom, we've already put a deposit down at Sunset Manor. They have a room ready for you tomorrow. Tomorrow. My head started spinning. But I don't need help. I live alone just fine. I cook, I clean, I take care of myself perfectly. Dr. Peterson made notes on his clipboard. Denial is very common with early-stage memory loss. That's exactly why family intervention is so important. Marcus nodded seriously. We can't wait until something dangerous happens, Mom. What if you forget to turn off the stove? What if you get lost driving? I've never forgotten to turn off my stove, I said firmly. And I've been driving the same routes for 40 years. But Sarah looked like she was about to cry. Mom, please don't make this harder than it already is. We're doing this because we love you. Dr. Peterson pulled out more papers. Now, if you could just sign here, Mrs. Johnson. This gives your daughter power to make medical decisions on your behalf. The pen felt heavy in my hand. Something deep in my stomach told me not to sign anything. But these were the people I trusted most in the world. What exactly am I signing? I asked, trying to read the tiny print. The words looked blurry, like they were swimming on the page. Dr. Peterson spoke quickly. Standard medical consent forms. Nothing complicated. But my nursing training kicked in. Medical forms should be explained clearly. Patients should understand everything before signing. I'd like to read this carefully first, I said, setting down the pen. Sarah's face changed just for a second. A flash of anger that disappeared so fast I almost missed it. Mom, Dr. Peterson has other appointments. We can't take all night. Marcus stood up and walked to the window, checking his watch again. Actually, maybe we should let Mom think about it overnight. Dr. Peterson shook his head. I'm afraid the facility needs confirmation tonight. Their waiting list is very long. I felt trapped like a mouse in a corner. 3 people staring at me, waiting for me to sign away something important. But what? My phone buzzed in my purse. Text message. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. The number was completely unknown. Local area code, but no name in my contacts. I opened the message quietly, holding the phone low so nobody could see. Don't react. Just leave the house now. My blood turned ice cold. Who was this? How did they get my number? Why were they warning me? I looked up at Sarah, Marcus, and Dr. Peterson. All 3 were watching me with sharp eyes, like hunters watching prey. Mom, Sarah asked. Everything okay? I slipped the phone back into my purse, mind racing. Just fine, dear. But my hands started shaking. Someone knew I was in danger. Someone was trying to help me. Actually, I said slowly, I need to use the bathroom before we continue. Dr. Peterson frowned. Of course, but let's try to wrap this up quickly. I stood up carefully, testing my balance. The room felt like it was tilting, but I managed to walk normally toward the hallway. Second door on the left, Mom, Sarah called out. We'll wait right here. I walked down the hall, but instead of going to the bathroom, I kept walking toward the back door. My heart was pounding like a drum. The anonymous message burned in my memory. Someone knew something I didn't. The back door opened onto Sarah's beautiful garden. Perfect flowers, perfect grass, everything too neat and organized. I walked quickly across the yard, my nursing shoes silent on the stone pathway behind me. I could hear voices in the living room, still discussing my condition and the papers I hadn't signed. The garden gate opened onto a quiet street lined with expensive houses. Street lights made everything look yellow and strange. I pulled out my phone and called a taxi, whispering my location so nobody inside could hear me. 5 minutes, the driver said. I'll wait at the corner. I walked to the corner carefully, looking back at Sarah's house every few steps. Warm light glowed from the windows. From outside, it looked like a happy family gathering. But inside, 3 people were planning something terrible for me. The taxi arrived exactly on time, a clean blue car with a friendly driver. Where to? He asked as I climbed in. Home, I said, giving him my address. Everything okay? You look upset. I think I'm about to find out, I answered honestly. As we drove away, I saw Dr. Peterson's car still in the driveway. My phone rang before we'd gone 2 blocks. Sarah's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring. Then it rang again. And again. Finally, I answered. Mom, where are you? You've been in the bathroom for 10 minutes. Her voice was high and scared. I needed some fresh air, I lied. I felt dizzy. Well, come back inside immediately. Dr. Peterson can't wait much longer. I could hear Marcus talking angrily in the background. Something about ruining everything. I'll be right back, I told Sarah, then hung up. But I wasn't going back. Not until I understood what was happening. The taxi driver glanced at me in the mirror. Family trouble? He asked kindly. I think so, I admitted. Do you know anything about Sunset Manor? The elderly care facility. His face darkened. Oh no. You're not thinking of going there, are you? My stomach dropped. What do you mean? Lady, my mother-in-law was there for 6 months before she died. That place is horrible. Understaffed, dirty, patients ignored for hours. The state tried to shut them down twice. Felt sick. This was where Sarah wanted to send me. Where she'd already made a deposit. But it's expensive, I said weakly. My daughter said it was the best. The driver shook his head. Expensive doesn't mean good. My mother-in-law paid $3,000 a month to be neglected. We couldn't get her out fast enough. $3,000 a month. How could Sarah and Marcus afford that on their salaries? Unless they weren't planning to pay for it themselves. My nursing pension was comfortable. My house was paid off. I had savings from 40 years of careful budgeting. Was that what they were really after? We arrived at my small house. The same house where I'd raised Sarah, where she'd learned to ride a bike, where we'd baked cookies every Christmas. It looked so ordinary compared to her mansion. I paid the taxi driver and added a big tip. Thank you for the warning about Sunset Manor. Take care of yourself, he said seriously. Don't let anyone bully you into anything. I walked up my familiar front steps, keys shaking in my hand. Inside, everything was exactly as I'd left it. Clean, organized, no signs of memory problems or confusion. So why was Sarah lying about my health? My phone rang again. This time it was Marcus. Mom, we're really worried about you. Sarah's crying. Where did you go? His voice sounded angry, not worried. I came home, I said simply. I needed to think about everything. There's nothing to think about. The doctors know what's best. You can't keep living alone. It's not safe. But my house felt perfectly safe. Safer than Sarah's house, where 3 strangers had tried to make me sign papers I didn't understand. Marcus, I need some time. Time for what? To get more confused. To hurt yourself. I hung up and immediately called the unknown number that had warned me. It rang once, then a woman's voice answered. Quiet, careful, like someone trying not to be overheard. I was hoping you would call. Who are you? Asked. How did you know I was in trouble? I can't tell you my name, but I know what they were planning tonight. Your daughter and her husband are in serious financial trouble. They owe money to dangerous people. My legs felt weak. I sat down hard in my favorite chair. What kind of money? Gambling debts, the voice continued. Marcus has been betting on sports, losing badly for months. They borrowed against their house, maxed out credit cards, took loans from people who break kneecaps when you can't pay back. The beautiful house, the expensive cars, the perfect life. All of it built on borrowed money. But what does that have to do with me? I asked, though I was starting to understand. The papers Dr. Peterson wanted you to sign weren't just medical consent forms. They would give Sarah complete control over your bank accounts, your house, your pension. Everything. The room started spinning. My own daughter had planned to steal everything I owned. The memory problems. Made up. Dr. Peterson isn't a real doctor. He's an actor they hired to make it look official. I thought about all the times Sarah had called me forgetful lately. All the little comments about my age. All the suggestions that I couldn't take care of myself. She'd been setting up this lie for weeks. Once they had legal control of your money, the voice continued, they would put you in Sunset Manor and drain your accounts to pay their debts. How do you know all this? I whispered. I work for them. Clean their house twice a week. I hear things. I speak English better than they think I do. Housekeeper. Someone they ignored, someone they treated like furniture. Why are you helping me? Because you remind me of my grandmother. Because what they're planning is evil. Because somebody has to stand up for what's right. My heart felt like it was breaking into a million pieces. My only child, my precious daughter, had planned to destroy my life for money. What should I do? Asked. Call the police. Tell them about the fake doctor, the forged papers, the plan to steal your money. I have evidence, recordings on my phone, documents I photographed when I was cleaning, recordings, evidence. This angel of a housekeeper had risked her job to save me. Will you testify? I can't. They'll have me deported. But the evidence speaks for itself. Understood. She'd already risked everything just to warn me. I couldn't ask for more. What's your name? Asked gently. Just call me Maria. That's enough. After hanging up with Maria, I sat in my quiet living room surrounded by memories of raising Sarah. Her first steps right here on this carpet. Her high school graduation pictures on the mantel. The daughter I'd sacrificed everything for, worked double shifts to put through college, helped with her wedding, loved unconditionally. How had she become someone who could plot to rob her own mother? My phone buzzed with another call from Sarah. I let it ring. Then another call. Then angry text messages. Mom, where are you? Come home now. But this was my home. Not her mansion built on lies and debt. I walked to my bedroom and looked at the photo on my nightstand. My husband and me on our wedding day, young and hopeful and honest. He would have been heartbroken to see what Sarah had become. I opened my jewelry box and took out the diamond ring he'd given me for our 25th anniversary. Sarah had always admired it, always said it would be hers someday. Now I wondered if she'd been planning to sell it along with everything else. The doorbell rang suddenly, making me jump. Through the window, I could see Sarah's car in my driveway. She'd come to get me. I watched her ring the bell again, then knock harder. Mom! Open the door. We know you're in there. Marcus appeared beside her. His face red with anger. They weren't pretending to be worried anymore. They were furious that their plan had failed. Mrs. Johnson. Dr. Peterson's voice joined them. Even the fake doctor had come to drag me back. I backed away from the window, heart pounding. These people were desperate. I called 911 with shaking fingers. Emergency services. What's your emergency? My daughter is trying to steal my money and put me in a nursing home against my will. She hired a fake doctor and tried to make me sign papers giving her control of my finances. The words sounded crazy coming out of my mouth. Ma'am, are you in immediate danger? Outside, Sarah was trying her key in my lock. The key I'd given her for emergencies. Yes, they're trying to break into my house right now. Officers are on the way. Stay on the line. Through the window, I watched Sarah, Marcus, and the fake Dr. Peterson arguing on my front porch. Sarah looked nothing like the sweet little girl I'd raised. Her face was twisted with greed and desperation. Marcus kept checking his phone, probably worried about the dangerous people he owed money to. Dr. Peterson looked nervous, like he was regretting taking this acting job. The police will be there in 10 minutes, the dispatcher told me. Is there a safe room where you can wait? My bedroom, I said, backing down the hallway. I'll lock the door. But before I could reach my bedroom, I heard the back door open. Sarah had remembered the spare key hidden under the flower pot. Mom! Her voice echoed through my house. Stop being ridiculous. Come out here right now. Her footsteps clicked across my kitchen floor. The same floor where she'd done homework at my table, where we'd shared thousands of meals, where I'd nursed her through childhood fevers. Now she was invading my home like a burglar. We're not leaving without you, Marcus called out. This is for your own good. I locked my bedroom door just as they reached it. Mom, open this door immediately. Sarah's voice was high and frantic. You're sick. You need help. Can't you see that? The doorknob rattled as they tried to force it open. Mrs. Johnson, Dr. Peterson's fake gentle voice joined in. I understand you're confused, but fighting us will only make things worse. Confused. I was thinking more clearly than I had in weeks. All those little doubts, all those strange feelings I'd had about Sarah's new lifestyle. My instincts had been right all along. Sarah, I called through the door. I know about Marcus's gambling debts. I know about the people you owe money to. I know Dr. Peterson is fake and Sunset Manor is a terrible place. I know you plan to steal my house and my savings. Complete silence fell on the other side of the door. Then Marcus started swearing loud and ugly words that made me flinch. "How does she know all that?" he demanded. "Someone told her." Sarah's voice was cold now, no more pretending to care about my health. "But it doesn't matter. We're in too deep to stop now." A loud bang shook my bedroom door. They were trying to break it down. "Please don't make us do this the hard way, Mom," Sarah called out, but her voice held no warmth anymore. Just desperation and greed. Bang, bang. The door frame started to crack. I pressed my back against the wall, clutching my phone. Where were the police? How much longer could my old door hold? Another bang, and I heard wood splintering. Through the gap, I could see Marcus's angry face. "Got it," he said, pushing the door open. All three of them burst into my bedroom like invaders. "There you are," Sarah said, breathing hard from breaking down my door. "Now stop this nonsense and come with us." But I wasn't the same frightened old woman from an hour ago. I stood up straight, using the voice I'd used to handle difficult patients during my nursing career. "Get out of my house. All of you. Right now." Dr. Peterson stepped forward with his fake smile. "Mrs. Johnson, you're clearly having an episode. These paranoid delusions are a classic sign of dementia." "The only delusion," I said firmly, "is thinking you could steal from me and get away with it." Marcus lunged toward me, probably planning to grab me and drag me to their car. But just then red and blue lights flashed through my bedroom window. Car doors slammed outside. Heavy footsteps ran up my front walk. "Police! Open the door!" The most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. Sarah's face went completely white. Marcus started backing toward my bedroom window like he was thinking of running. Dr. Peterson looked around frantically, probably wondering how a simple acting job had turned into a crime scene. "How did you?" Sarah whispered. "I called them," I said. "Unlike you, I still know right from wrong." The police broke down my already damaged front door with much more authority than my daughter had used on my bedroom door. "Mrs. Johnson, we got your 911 call." Two officers appeared in my bedroom doorway, hands on their weapons. They looked at Sarah, Marcus, and the fake doctor like the criminals they were. "These are the people?" the first officer asked me. "Yes," I said clearly. "My daughter and her husband tried to trick me into signing papers so they could steal my money and put me in a horrible nursing home. That man is pretending to be a doctor." "That's ridiculous," Sarah protested, but her voice shook with fear. "Mom has dementia. We were trying to help her." The second officer studied her carefully. "Ma'am, do you have medical documentation of your mother's condition?" Sarah looked at Dr. Peterson desperately. "Tell them," she demanded. But Dr. Peterson was already backing away. "I'm sorry," he mumbled. "I can't get involved with police. This isn't what I signed up for." He pushed past the officers and ran down my hallway. Through the window, I watched him sprint to his car and speed away into the night. "Interesting," the first officer noted. "Real doctors don't usually run from police." He turned to Sarah and Marcus with professional authority. "We need to see identification from both of you. And we'd like to examine these papers Mrs. Johnson mentioned." Sarah's purse sat on my dresser where she'd dropped it when breaking down my door. Inside were the forged documents, the fake medical evaluations, the power of attorney forms that would have given her control of everything I owned. "These look very official," the officer said, studying them carefully. "Who prepared them?" Marcus finally spoke up, his voice cracking with stress. "Look, we're in trouble, okay? Bad trouble. We owe money to people who will hurt us if we don't pay up fast." The second officer raised his eyebrows. "How much money?" $200,000, Sarah whispered. "Maybe more." Marcus kept betting, kept losing, kept borrowing from worse and worse people. $200,000. No wonder they'd been willing to destroy their relationship with me. No wonder they'd planned to put me away and steal everything. They weren't just greedy, they were terrified. "So you decided to rob your own mother?" the first officer asked with disgust. "Forge medical documents, hire a fake doctor, commit elder abuse?" We didn't rob anyone, Sarah protested weakly. We were trying to get Mom the care she needs. But the evidence was scattered across my bedroom. The forged papers, the broken door, their desperate behavior when their plan fell apart. Mrs. Johnson, the second officer asked me gently, do you feel safe having these people in your home? No, I answered honestly. I want them arrested for what they tried to do to me. The handcuffs clicked onto Sarah's wrists with a sound like breaking hearts. My little girl, my only child, the baby I'd rocked to sleep 1,000 times, was being arrested in my bedroom. Mom, please, she begged as the officer led her toward my broken door. Don't do this to your own daughter. We can work something out. I'll pay you back everything. But it wasn't about money anymore. It was about trust, about love, about the kind of person she'd chosen to become. You already did this to yourself, I told her sadly. I'm just making sure you face the consequences. Marcus fought the handcuffs like a wild animal. You don't understand, he shouted at me. These people will kill us if we don't pay. Your daughter will die because you're too selfish to help your own family. The officer handling him wasn't impressed. Sir, threatening relatives is another crime we can add to your charges. As they led him away, Marcus kept screaming about the dangerous people he owed money to, about how it was all my fault, about how I was condemning Sarah to death. But I'd been a nurse for 30 years. I knew the difference between helping someone and enabling them. The house felt eerily quiet after the police cars drove away with my daughter and son-in-law inside them. My bedroom door hung crooked on its hinges. The forged papers were scattered across my dresser like evidence of betrayal. I sat on my bed, surrounded by the wreckage of my family, and tried to process what had just happened. My phone rang. Unknown number, but not the same one as before. Mrs. Johnson. This is Detective Williams. We need to ask you some questions about tonight's events. Of course, I said. Whatever you need. First, we need to thank you for calling when you did. We've been investigating a fraud ring that targets elderly people with fake medical evaluations and forged documents. Your daughter and son-in-law may have been involved in more cases than just yours. More victims. Other families destroyed by the same greed that had poisoned mine. What happens now? Yes. They'll be charged with conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, and attempted theft. If convicted, they could face 5 to 10 years in prison. Years. Sarah would be almost 50 when she got out. Her life, ruined by gambling and desperation. Detective, there's something else you should know. Someone warned me tonight. A housekeeper who works for my daughter. She has evidence, recordings, documents. But she's afraid to come forward because of her immigration status. Pause on the other end. Can you put us in touch with her? We can offer protection for witnesses who help prosecute these crimes. I thought about Maria, the brave woman who'd risked everything to save a stranger. I'll ask her, but I won't pressure her. She's already done more than anyone should have to. Understood. Heroes come in all forms. After the detective hung up, I walked through my damaged house. The back door stood open where Sarah had broken in. My bedroom door would need replacing. But the real damage wasn't to my property. It was to my heart. How do you recover from discovering that your own child sees you as nothing but a source of money? How do you rebuild after learning that everything you thought you knew about your family was a lie? I made myself a cup of tea and sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where Sarah had eaten cereal before school every morning for 12 years. My phone buzzed with a text from the number I now knew belonged to Maria. Are you safe? I saw the police cars. Type back carefully. Safe. Thank you for saving my life. The police want to talk to you, but only if you're willing. A long pause then. I'll think about it. What happened to your daughter? How did I explain that the little girl who'd once brought me dandelions was now sitting in a jail cell? She made her choices, I typed back. Now she has to live with them. The next morning brought reporters to my front door. Somehow word had gotten out about the elderly woman who'd outsmarted her own family's fraud scheme. Mrs. Johnson, how did you know something was wrong? What advice do you have for other seniors? I peeked through my curtains at the cameras and microphones, then decided to ignore them all. This wasn't about fame or attention. It was about justice and survival. But my phone kept ringing with calls from newspapers, TV stations, even a few publishing companies who wanted to buy my story. Detective Williams called again around noon. "Mrs. Johnson, I have some updates. The fake Dr. Peterson was arrested this morning trying to board a flight to Mexico. Turns out his real name is James Mitchell, and he's been running medical scams in 3 states. I felt a grim satisfaction that the man who tried to trick me was now facing his own consequences. What about my daughter and Marcus? Still in custody. Their lawyer is trying to arrange bail, but given the flight risk and the serious nature of the charges, I doubt they'll get it. Detective, I need to ask you something important. When they go to trial, will I have to testify against my own daughter?" The question had been keeping me awake all night. Long pause. "Yes, your testimony will be crucial for conviction. Are you prepared for that? Was anyone ever prepared to help send their child to prison?" But I thought about other elderly people who might be sitting in fake doctors' offices right now, being pressured to sign away their life savings. "Yes," I said firmly. "I'm prepared." "Good. Justice requires courage, and you've shown plenty of both." Maria called that afternoon. "Mrs. Johnson, I've decided to help the police. What your daughter planned to do was evil. Other people need protection from these crimes." Her voice was stronger now, more confident. "Are you sure? I don't want you taking risks for my sake. This isn't just for you anymore. This morning I found out they tried the same trick on Mrs. Chen down the street last month. She signed the papers before anyone could stop them. Now she's in a terrible nursing home and her family has all her money. More victims. Sarah's greed had spread like a disease. Mrs. Chen is 85 years old," Maria continued. "She has diabetes and needs special care, but that awful place barely feeds her. Her own son is spending her money on a new car while she suffers." The image made me sick. Was that what would have happened to me? Locked away in Sunset Manor while Sarah and Marcus enjoyed my life savings. "Maria, what can we do to help Mrs. Chen?" "The police say if enough victims come forward, they can build a stronger case. But these families are good at hiding what they've done." That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I drove to the bad side of town. Sunset Manor sat on a corner like a gray concrete box, surrounded by dead grass and chain-link fencing. The parking lot was full of potholes. The building's windows were dirty and many had broken blinds. This was where Sarah had planned to abandon me. I walked up to the front door, which was propped open with a brick. The smell hit me immediately. Disinfectant mixed with something much worse. Human neglect. "Can I help you?" A tired-looking woman behind a scratched desk looked up from her magazine. "I'm thinking about my mother," I lied. "Someone recommended this facility." The woman laughed, but it wasn't a happy sound. "Someone recommended this place. They must hate your mother." She wasn't wrong. The hallway behind her was dimly lit and lined with wheelchairs. Elderly people sat slumped in them like forgotten furniture. Some were calling out for help that nobody seemed to hear. One woman was crying softly, reaching toward anyone who passed. "How much does it cost to keep someone here?" asked. $3,000 a month for basic care, the receptionist said. More if they need special attention, which they all do eventually. $3,000 to be ignored and neglected. $3,000 for Sarah to steal from my accounts while I wasted away in a chair like these poor souls. "Can I see a room?" "Sure, but I should warn you, we have a waiting list." She led me down a hallway that smelled like old food and sadness. The room she showed me was tiny, with peeling paint and a window that looked out at a brick wall. "Your mother would share this space with another resident," she explained. "Meals are served at 6, 12, and 5. No exceptions." I thought about my comfortable home, my garden, my freedom to eat whenever I wanted. This wasn't care. It was imprisonment. Back home, I called Detective Williams with new determination. I want to visit every elderly person who might be a victim of these scams. I want to help them fight back. Mrs. Johnson, that's admirable, but it could be dangerous. These fraud rings don't like witnesses. I'm 72 years old, I told him. I've survived raising a teenager, 40 years of nursing, and my daughter trying to destroy my life. I think I can handle helping other families. He was quiet for a moment. Actually, that's not a bad idea. Would you consider working with our fraud prevention unit? We need someone who understands how these scams work. The next week, I found myself in a police conference room, looking at photos and documents from a dozen similar cases. Elderly parents tricked into signing power of attorney forms. Fake doctors making false diagnoses. Families stealing inheritances while their parents sat in terrible nursing homes. The problem, Detective Williams explained, is that most victims don't realize they're being scammed until it's too late. They trust their families completely. Just like I trusted Sarah, I said quietly. Exactly. That's why your case is so important. You figured it out in time. Maria joined us at the police station, bringing a box full of evidence she'd gathered while cleaning houses in Sarah's wealthy neighborhood. I've been collecting information for months, she explained. Rich families with gambling problems, elderly parents with money, fake doctors making house calls. This is bigger than just your daughter. She spread out photographs, recorded conversations, copies of forged documents. How many victims? I asked, though I was afraid to hear the answer. At least 20 that I know of. Maybe more. 20 families destroyed by greed. 20 elderly people betrayed by the children they'd raised and loved. Detective Williams studied Maria's evidence with growing excitement. This is incredible. With this information, we can bust the entire operation. What happens to the people already trapped in nursing homes? Yes. Can we get them out? If we can prove they were defrauded, yes. Their families will lose control of their finances, and the victims can choose where they want to live. I thought about Mrs. Chen, wasting away in Sunset Manor while her son spent her money. How quickly can this happen? Depends on how fast we can process all this evidence. Weeks, maybe months. Sarah called me from jail the next day. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up the phone. Mom. Her voice was small and scared, like when she was little and had nightmares. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what we tried to do. For a moment my heart softened. This was still my daughter, still the baby I'd loved unconditionally. Sarah, why? Why would you do something so terrible? We were desperate, she whispered. The people Marcus owes money to, they're not joking around. They threatened to hurt both of us. So you decided to hurt me instead. The words came out harder than I intended. Sarah started crying. We thought you'd be safe in the nursing home. We thought we could pay back the money and then get you out. Have you seen Sunset Manor? It's a horrible place where elderly people go to die. More crying. I didn't know. Marcus handled all the arrangements. I just wanted the nightmare to end. But choosing crime over honesty had made the nightmare worse for everyone. Sarah, there were other options. You could have asked for help, declared bankruptcy, found legal solutions. Would you have helped us? She asked quietly. If we'd been honest about the gambling debts, would you have given us the money? It was a fair question. Would I have handed over $200,000 to enable Marcus's addiction? Probably not. Would I have helped them find legal ways to deal with their problems? Absolutely. I would have helped you find real solutions, I told her. Not criminal ones. But now it's too late, she said. Now we're going to prison and the dangerous people are still out there. Yes, I agreed sadly. Now it's too late. The trial began 3 months later. I sat in the witness box, looking at my daughter across the courtroom. She wore an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, looking nothing like the successful lawyer she'd pretended to be. Marcus sat beside her, thinner and grayer, his gambling addiction having cost him everything. The prosecutor, a young woman about Sarah's age, Asked me to describe the night they tried to drug me and steal my money. Every detail felt like a knife in my heart, but I told the truth clearly and completely. Mrs. Johnson, the defense lawyer said when it was his turn, isn't it possible that your daughter genuinely believed you needed care? That she was acting out of love, not greed? I looked at Sarah, remembering the little girl who used to bring me breakfast in bed on Mother's Day. Sir, love doesn't involve lies, drugs, and theft. Love involves honesty and respect. What my daughter planned was the opposite of love. Sarah was crying again, but I couldn't tell if it was from shame or self-pity. The jury watched her with expressions of disgust and disappointment. Maria testified next, her voice strong and clear despite her nervousness about being in court. She presented all the evidence she'd gathered: recordings of Sarah and Marcus planning their crimes, photographs of forged documents, proof that they targeted multiple elderly victims. "Why did you risk your job and your safety to gather this evidence?" the prosecutor asked. "Because watching elderly people get hurt by their own families made me sick," Maria answered. "Because somebody had to stand up for what's right." The jury looked impressed by her courage. Even the judge nodded with approval. The fake Dr. Peterson, whose real name was James Mitchell, had already been convicted in a separate trial. His testimony, given in exchange for a lighter sentence, revealed the full scope of the fraud operation. "Sarah Miller contacted me through an online forum for people in debt," he explained. "She needed someone who could pose as a medical professional to convince her mother to sign legal documents. She offered me $5,000 for one evening's work. $5,000 to destroy my life. Sarah had put a price on my freedom, my dignity, my right to make my own decisions." The prosecutor played recordings Maria had made while cleaning Sarah's house. Sarah's voice, discussing how to make me seem confused and forgetful. Marcus's voice, researching which nursing homes were cheapest and asked the fewest questions. Their casual cruelty was shocking even to me. "Once we get power of attorney," Sarah's voice said clearly, "we can sell her house, empty her accounts, and pay off our debts. She'll never know what happened." "What if she fights us?" Marcus asked. "She's old and confused," Sarah replied. "No one will believe her over us." The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. When they returned, their faces showed no sympathy for my daughter and son-in-law. "Has the jury reached a verdict?" the judge asked. "We have, Your Honor. On the charge of conspiracy to commit fraud, we find the defendants guilty. On the charge of elder abuse, we find the defendants guilty. On the charge of attempted theft, we find the defendants guilty." Sarah collapsed in her chair like a broken doll. Marcus stared at the wall with empty eyes. Their lawyer looked defeated. Justice had been served, but it felt more like a funeral than a victory. The judge sentenced Sarah to 8 years in prison. Marcus got 10 years because of his gambling addiction and his role in organizing the scheme. "The betrayal of family trust," the judge said sternly, "is one of the most heinous crimes in our society. Elderly people deserve protection and respect, not exploitation by those they love most." As they led my daughter away in shackles, she looked back at me one last time. Her eyes held a mixture of regret and anger, as if she still blamed me for ruining her plan instead of taking responsibility for her choices. After the trial, I drove to Sunset Manor one more time. But this visit was different. Detective Williams had obtained warrants to investigate the facility, and what they found was even worse than I'd imagined. Patients left in their own waste for hours. Medication given incorrectly or not at all. Elderly people dying from neglect while their families' money filled the owner's pockets. The place was shut down within a week. Mrs. Chan and 15 other victims were moved to proper care facilities where they received the attention they deserved. Maria became my closest friend during the months that followed. Her bravery in testifying had impressed the immigration lawyers so much that they helped her get permanent residency status. "You saved more than just me," I told her over coffee in my kitchen. "You saved dozens of elderly people from being abused by their own families." She smiled, but her expression was still sad. "I just wish we could have helped more people sooner." "We're helping them now," I reminded her. Every case we solve, every victim we rescue makes a difference. The Police Fraud Prevention Unit asked me to become an official consultant, helping them identify and investigate elder abuse cases. My nursing background and personal experience made me uniquely qualified to spot the warning signs. You understand both the medical side and the family dynamics, Detective Williams explained. Plus, elderly people trust you in a way they don't trust younger officers. The work was heartbreaking but necessary. Every week brought new cases of families stealing from their parents, children abandoning their elderly relatives, criminals targeting vulnerable seniors. But there were victories too. We reunited Mrs. Patterson with a grandson who genuinely loved her after exposing the nephew who'd been stealing her pension checks. We caught a ring of fake home health workers who were drugging patients and emptying their bank accounts. We saved Mr. Rodriguez from being placed in a terrible facility by his daughter-in-law, who just wanted his house. Each rescued victim felt like a small victory against the darkness that had tried to swallow my own family. Sarah sent me letters from prison, especially at first. They were full of apologies and promises to change, mixed with subtle hints that I should help her get early parole. I know I made mistakes, Mom, she wrote, but I've learned my lesson. I could come home and take care of you like a good daughter should. The manipulation was still there, disguised as remorse. I read each letter carefully, looking for signs of genuine change, but mostly finding the same selfishness that had led to her crimes. I stopped responding after the first year. Real change had to come from within, not from my forgiveness. Marcus's letters were different, shorter, angrier, blaming everyone but himself for his situation. Your mother destroyed our family, he wrote to Sarah in a letter she shared with me. We were just trying to survive, and she chose strangers over her own blood. The fact that Sarah shared this letter with me showed she still didn't understand what they'd done wrong. They hadn't been trying to survive. They'd been trying to avoid consequences. There's a difference between desperation and evil, and they'd chosen evil. The second year after the trial, I received news that changed everything. Marcus had been found dead in his prison cell, apparently from a heart attack brought on by stress and poor health. Sarah called me, sobbing, begging me to help her get compassionate release to attend his funeral. He was my husband, Mom. Whatever he did, I loved him. Please help me say goodbye. For the first time since the trial, I felt genuine sympathy for my daughter. Death had a way of making everything else seem small and petty. I called Detective Williams to ask what could be done. She can attend the funeral under heavy guard, he explained, but you'll have to take responsibility for her behavior. Are you sure you want that connection? I thought about it for a long time. Sarah had tried to destroy my life, but she was still my daughter. Marcus was still the father of dreams she'd once had for their future together. Yes, I decided. Everyone deserves to bury their dead with dignity. The funeral was small and sad. Sarah, in handcuffs and chains, cried over Marcus's coffin while 2 guards watched every move. I stood beside her, offering what comfort I could to the woman who'd betrayed me. Thank you for being here, Sarah whispered as they led her back to the prison van. I know I don't deserve your kindness. Nobody deserves cruelty, I replied. But kindness has to be earned back slowly, through actions, not words. She nodded, tears still streaming down her face. When I get out, I want to make things right somehow. I want to help other families avoid the mistakes we made. It was the first time she'd taken real responsibility for her choices. Maybe Marcus's death had finally broken through her wall of self-justification. Maybe there was hope for redemption after all. The years passed quietly after that. My work with the Fraud Prevention Unit gave me purpose and helped me heal from the betrayal. Maria and I developed a strong partnership, her street-smart observation skills complementing my medical knowledge. Together, we'd identified and stopped dozens of elder abuse schemes. The local news started calling me the Grandmother Detective, a title that embarrassed and pleased me in equal measure. You're famous, Maria laughed during one of our coffee sessions. All the criminals know to avoid you now. But the work was taking a toll on my health. At 75, I found myself getting tired more easily, needing reading glasses for paperwork, feeling the weight of all the sadness I'd seen in broken families. Detective Williams, now a lieutenant, suggested I consider retiring. "You've done more than enough," he said gently. "You've saved hundreds of people from what almost happened to you. Maybe it's time to rest and enjoy your life." He was right, but the idea of stopping felt like abandoning people who still needed help. Sarah was released after serving 6 years of her 8-year sentence. Her time reduced for good behavior and participation in prison education programs. She called me the day she got out, her voice uncertain and humble. "Mom, I know I don't have the right to ask, but could we meet somewhere? Just to talk." Part of me wanted to say no, to protect myself from more disappointment. But another part remembered the little girl who'd once made me Valentine's cards from construction paper and glitter. "Coffee," I said carefully. "In a public place. 1 hour." We met at a diner downtown, the kind of place where nobody paid attention to other people's conversations. Sarah looked older, thinner, with gray streaks in her hair and worry lines around her eyes. Prison had aged her more than the years should have. "You look good, Mom," she said quietly. "Healthy and strong." "I keep busy," I replied, not sure how much I wanted to share about my life. She nodded, understanding that trust would have to be rebuilt slowly. "I've been thinking about what you said at Marcus's funeral, about earning kindness back through actions. I got my GED in prison," Sarah continued. "Then I took courses in addiction counseling and financial planning. I want to help people avoid the mistakes Marcus and I made." She pulled out certificates and transcripts, proof of her efforts to change. "I know I can never undo what I did to you, but maybe I can prevent other families from going through the same thing." I studied the documents, impressed despite myself. These weren't easy programs, and Sarah had clearly worked hard. "What kind of help do you want to offer?" I asked carefully. "I want to speak at support groups for families dealing with gambling addiction," she said. "Tell them how debt and desperation can turn people into criminals. Warn them about the lies they tell themselves when they're planning to hurt the people they love." It was a good plan, but I had to ask the hard question. How do I know this isn't another manipulation? Another way to make me trust you so you can hurt me again? Sarah looked directly into my eyes, something she hadn't been able to do during the trial. "You don't know," she said honestly. "You can only judge me by what I do, not what I say." Over the following months, Sarah proved her sincerity through consistent action. She got a job at a nonprofit organization that helped families in financial crisis. She attended regular meetings for people with gambling addiction, even though her addiction had been Marcus's, not hers. She sent me letters about her work, not asking for anything in return, just sharing the progress she was making. Slowly, carefully, I began to believe that prison had truly changed my daughter into someone I could respect, if not yet fully trust. Maria was skeptical at first. "People can pretend to change for years," she warned during one of our coffee meetings. "How do you know she's really different?" "I don't," I admitted. "But I have to give her a chance to prove herself. Not because I owe her anything, but because redemption should be possible for people who truly work for it." Maria nodded thoughtfully. "Your heart is bigger than mine. After what she did, I don't think I could forgive." "Forgiveness and trust are different things," I explained. "I'm working on forgiving her, but trust will take much longer." The breakthrough came 2 years after Sarah's release. She called me one evening, her voice shaking with excitement. "Mom, I need to tell you something incredible. A family came to our nonprofit today. An elderly woman whose son was trying to get power of attorney to steal her house. I recognized the pattern immediately from what I tried to do to you. We called the police, gathered evidence, and stopped it before any papers were signed. She had used her knowledge of fraud to protect someone else instead of committing it herself. That was real change. The best part," Sarah continued, "is that the woman reminded me of you. Strong, smart, independent. When her son tried to make her feel confused and helpless, she fought back just like you did. I told her about my story, about how I tried to do the same thing to my own mother. She looked at me and said, 'Then you know exactly why this is wrong.' It was like hearing your voice again. For the first time in 8 years, I felt genuinely proud of my daughter. Not for succeeding at crime, but for preventing it. Not for taking from others, but for protecting them. That Christmas, I invited Sarah to dinner at my house. The same house she'd once planned to steal, now welcoming her back as a changed person. Maria joined us, bringing homemade tamales and stories about her new job as a victim advocate. We sat around my kitchen table, the same table where Sarah had done homework as a child, where she'd planned my destruction as a criminal, and where she now shared stories of redemption as an adult. "This feels like family again," Sarah said quietly. "Different than before, but real." "Family means something different now," I agreed. "It's not just about blood relationships. It's about people who choose to protect and support each other." I looked at Maria, who had risked everything to save me, and at Sarah, who had worked so hard to become someone worthy of love again. Real family tells the truth, even when it hurts. Real family makes sacrifices for each other's well-being, not their own profit. Sarah nodded, tears in her eyes. "I'm sorry it took me so long to understand that." Detective Williams, now Captain Williams, stopped by after dinner to update us on the latest elder abuse cases. "We've prevented over 300 fraud schemes since Mrs. Johnson started working with us," he announced proudly. "Her program has been adopted by police departments in 12 states. I felt humbled by the numbers. 300 elderly people who got to keep their money, their homes, their dignity. 300 families who avoided the destruction that had torn mine apart. It's not just my program," I corrected. "Maria and Sarah and dozens of other people made this possible." "Speaking of which," Captain Williams continued, "Sarah, your victim advocacy work has been remarkable. The families you've helped want to nominate you for the state's Redemption Award." Sarah looked shocked. "People who commit crimes against their own families don't usually get awards," she said quietly. "People who use their mistakes to prevent others from making the same ones do," he replied. "You've become one of our most effective weapons against elder fraud because you understand how it works from the inside." Sarah started crying, not from self-pity this time, but from gratitude for second chances. As the evening wound down, I walked Sarah and Maria to their cars. The street looked the same as it had 8 years ago when everything fell apart, but my perspective had changed completely. Where once I'd seen only betrayal and loss, I now saw redemption and hope. "Mom," Sarah said, hesitating by her car door, "I know I can never fully make up for what I did to you, but I promise to spend the rest of my life trying." "You already have," I told her honestly. "By becoming someone who protects people instead of hurting them. By choosing courage over greed." That night, I sat in my favorite chair with a cup of tea, thinking about the long journey from that terrible dinner to this hopeful evening. My phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number, just like the text that had saved my life years earlier. But this time, the message was from a grateful family whose elderly father I'd helped rescue from his son's fraud scheme. "Thank you for giving us hope that families can heal," it read. "Thank you for showing us that love is stronger than greed." I smiled, thinking about how many lives had been touched by one housekeeper's courage to speak truth. The lessons I'd learned were simple but profound. Trust must be earned through actions, not promises. Family loyalty should never excuse criminal behavior. Redemption is possible, but only through consistent effort and genuine change. Most importantly, sometimes the people who save us are strangers who choose to do the right thing when no one is watching. Maria's anonymous warning had started a chain reaction of healing that was still spreading through communities across the country. One moment of moral courage can change countless lives forever. Looking back, I realized that the night my daughter tried to destroy my life was also the night that taught me what life was really worth. Not money or property or security, but the ability to trust, to hope, to believe in the possibility of redemption. Sarah had stolen my innocence about family loyalty, but she'd also given me the opportunity to discover inner strength I didn't know I possessed. The betrayal had been devastating, but surviving it had made me stronger and more compassionate than I'd ever been before. My work with elder abuse victims continued for 3 more years until arthritis made the travel too difficult. By then, the program had expanded nationwide, with Sarah leading training sessions for law enforcement and Maria heading a network of immigrant witnesses who felt safe coming forward. We'd created something beautiful from something terrible. A system that protected vulnerable people from their own families when necessary. We're like the three legs of a stool, Maria laughed during our final official meeting. Each one essential to keeping the whole thing stable. On my 80th birthday, Sarah threw me a surprise party. Not in her fancy house. She'd long since moved to a modest apartment more appropriate for someone dedicated to helping others, but in the community center where she ran support groups for families in crisis. The room was filled with people whose lives had been touched by our work. Elderly victims who'd escaped fraud. Family members who'd learned to seek help instead of committing crimes. Police officers who'd adopted our prevention methods. "You saved all of us," one woman told me. "By refusing to be a victim, you taught us how to be survivors." The cake was homemade, the decorations were simple, and the speeches were heartfelt. Captain Williams presented me with a Lifetime Achievement Award from the police department. The mayor declared it Mrs. Johnson Day in our city. Sarah gave a speech that made everyone cry, talking about the difference between the mother she'd tried to destroy and the hero she'd helped create. My mom taught me that it's never too late to choose love over fear, truth over lies, protection over profit, she said. She saved me from myself by refusing to let me destroy her. As the party wound down, I found myself alone with Sarah and Maria in the empty community center. "What happens now?" Sarah asked. "Now that you're officially retired from victim advocacy?" I looked around the room where so many healing conversations had taken place, where so many broken families had found their way back to each other. "Now we keep living," I said simply. "We keep choosing kindness over cruelty, truth over deception, hope over despair. The work continues, even if we're not leading it anymore." Maria nodded. "The next generation will carry it forward." That night, I sat in my garden under the stars, thinking about the anonymous text message that had changed everything. "Don't react. Just leave the house now." Those simple words had saved not just my life, but the lives of hundreds of other elderly people. They'd led to my daughter's imprisonment and eventual redemption. They'd created a friendship with Maria that enriched both our lives. They'd given me a purpose that lasted well into my golden years. Sometimes salvation comes from the most unexpected places, delivered by people whose names we never know but whose courage changes the world. If you like this story, please subscribe to Granny's Voice and share your thoughts in the comments below.